Welcome to the next lesson in the YouTube launch system. I'm super excited by this lesson because this is where we start to get into your insight. The title of the lesson is pretty self explanatory. Your insight matters. I want to start by challenging you to have this belief as you go through this lesson. Your perspective on a subject is what changes people's lives, so own it. This lesson matters because it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that someone else knows far more than I do, or someone has more experience in this area than I do. Who am I to be talking about it? In reality, your perspective, informed by your unique combination of strengths, experiences, and lessons learned, is incredibly valuable. Don't ever forget that as you're going through and experiencing these thoughts. Just remember what I said at the start of this course. Feelings of insecurity are inevitable, but they don't need to hold you back. When I first started my YouTube channel, I was very insecure about what I was doing. I would look around and I would see all of these people who seemed so experienced, who seemed to know what they were doing, and it really stopped me from really pressing into some of the things that I saw. The problem for me was that I failed to deal with that insecurity, and this resulted in so many bad outcomes. I started to not produce content that I loved. I started to not want to do what I was doing. I completely gave away the stuff that I was doing. I didn't build an effective sales funnel. Like all of that was driven because I was so insecure about what I did and really felt like I wasn't offering any value. The truth is not until this year that I started to rebuild from that place. And I really, really, really want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. I want to make sure that we frame this lesson by defining the difference between knowledge and insight. The first thing to understand is that knowledge is information. It's an intellectual description of an area of expertise. Lots of people can know about a subject. You can read a book about a subject. You can listen to an audiobook about it. But insight is what you do with it. Sometimes people might refer to this as wisdom, and that's definitely a component of it. It ends up being the patterns that you've noticed, the techniques you've used to master a subject matter, and the mistakes that you've learned from. No one has the exact same set of experiences as you, and what you've observed, driven by your unique combination of strengths, gifts, and talents, will be incredibly valuable to people on YouTube. And that feeds into my third point, which is that your insight is what sets you apart from everybody out there. You don't have to be an expert on everything to do with the topic. As long as you can produce an authoritative piece of content in your specific area that you want to play around in, that's what matters. The reality that I find with most people that I work with is they already have far more insight than they realize. Once they engage with our content extraction system, they suddenly realize that they've got so much to offer and they get really, really excited. With that said, now I want to give you the Insight Identification Framework, or the Insight ID Framework, a simple 3-step framework that will allow you to start identifying the areas that you have expertise in. The 3 ways you can go about doing this are as follows. First of all, have a think about the questions that you've been asked in the past. What are the sorts of things that people naturally come up to you all the time and ask you for insight for? What are the types of questions that when there's a presentation at work, or they have to do a toolbox meeting or a lunch and learn, or whatever it might be called in your workplace, like when people are looking for a subject matter expert, what are the types of questions that you are consistently tapped on the shoulder for? Another way that people do this is have a look at the things that they know that could have been done better. For me, that was the genesis of what I did with Tradeoxy. I knew there must be a better way of producing the trading bots that I started to build. So I created content that answered that question. What was I doing? I was thinking about the things that I know that could have been done better. The third way that really resonates for a lot of people is shortcuts that you wish that you knew. Maybe there's an industry standard process that must be done for whatever reason, and you know a really quick way to do it. That's incredibly valuable information because ultimately time is something we all wish we had more of. If you can produce content that allows people to save time, even in the simplest things, that's going to be valuable for lots and lots of people. Here's some gotchas that I've learned about expert level insight over the years, and I really hope that this helps you avoid them in your life. First of all, sometimes your insight area may not actually be directly related to your job. My background is in cybersecurity, and I did a lot of software development and engaging with software development over the years. I never thought that I would end up in the world of trading bots, but that exact level of preparation is what led me to being able to establish my Tradeoxy channel. It's something that if someone had told me before I did it that that's what I've been doing, I would have laughed. Not really a field I saw myself in. But I had the exact set of skills that were required to be able to solve that problem and then create content around it. Secondly, and I referenced this before, real life insight does not mean that you need to be an expert for everything in your field. Some fields are absolutely vast and it's impossible for everybody to be an expert in all of it. What you need to be able to do is clearly identify the area that you are an expert in and really, really lean into that. As long as you can back it up with facts and figures, you'll be totally fine. And finally, and I said this in the last one and I'll say it again because it's super important, don't be afraid to sweat the details. Details matter when it comes to producing high quality educational content. People want to know the details and they want to know how to do it well. This lesson is a little bit shorter because I've got a challenge for you that's a little bit harder than I've previously given you. Using the module worksheet, I want you to fill out 3 answers to each of the questions from the Insight Identification Framework. That's right. There are 3 questions in there, and for each question, you need to fill out 3 answers, giving you 9. When you've done all of that, I want you to have a look at what you've created and then answer this statement. Most people in my field think whatever they think, but what I've actually found is whatever you found. You may not realize it, and in the next few lessons, you'll start to see why, but right now, you've already started to define a very simple content plan for your channel. Doesn't mean that's what we're going to be using, and it's up to you whether we go down that path or not. But I would just love you to take a pause after you do that and have a look at what you've got on the page. You've actually just started to do content, but all you were doing was talking about 3 really simple things that you already knew they were already inside of you. And that's the magic of this process. The final thing then is to make a recording of yourself, no more than 3 minutes, with the answer to number 2 from above, and along with an explanation of what you perceive as your field of expertise. If you're in the Done With You program, send it through to me and I'll be reviewing it for you. There's 3 things you need to do to prepare for the next lesson. Number 1, you need to complete the worksheet. Number 2, you need to sit with your insight statement and ask yourself, does this feel right? And finally, I want you to think about the last 3 people you helped in your field. What did they walk away with? I'll see you in the next lesson.